Hello everyone and welcome to today's video, which will be based on the ASRock B460M Pro4 motherboard. And this is a microATX motherboard which consists of the 1200 Intel Core chipset, which will be definitely interesting for those who are running on let's say a microATX or smaller tower cases, and also for those who aren't running the unlocked or K processors, even though we're going to test it with 10700K since that's the only Intel processor I have from 10th generation. It will still show some specs, definitely testing and benchmarks. So let's dive in and check out what we have with this motherboard. When we're talking about the VRM's 9-power phase design featuring sturdy components and completely smooth power delivery to the CPU, it offers enhanced performance with the lowest temperatures for advanced gamers as well. Doesn't matter if it's for gamers or not, still okay, they mentioned it, but nevertheless, let's go to the next feature. So dual Ultra M.2 for SSD. So the world's fastest PCI Gen 3 x4 Ultra M.2 slots that can deliver up to 32 gigabits per second transfer speed, and one of which also supports SATA 3 6 gigabit per second M.2 modules. As usual, we have the polychrome RGB sync, which you could connect your fans, LED strips, and make your PC shine a bit more. When we're talking about the audio, we have the Nahimic Audio 3D sound technology that can recreate the sound experience of 7.1 channels on a regular stereo listening system, such as headphones or speakers, which is really cool. Now let's go to the I/O overview, and first of all we have two USB 2.0 PS2 mouse and keyboard port, D-sub port, HDMI and display port. You have antenna brackets, which unfortunately you don't get antennas, USB 3.2 generation 1 type C, two USB 3.2 generation 1, you have the gigabit LAN, which is Intel gigabit LAN, additional two USB 3.2 generation 1, so that's 4 of them, and you have the in, out and microphone connectivity with 3.5mm jacks. Now looking at the box, you get the quick installation guide with the DVD drivers, but basically you can download all of them from their website. You get two SATA cables and you get the M.2. Basically you don't need the second one, since when you cover the heatsink on the M.2 SSD you get that extra screw, so you get one extra screw for the lower M.2 SSD. Overall, when we're talking about the design of the motherboard, it kind of almost has that Steel Legend design with the huge passive coolers, which are in a silverish color. So from the VRMs to the almost full cover of the I/O ports, which would be really cool if it actually had a full cover. It would definitely give a special design and looks to the motherboard, but we're talking about the lower range motherboard, so it's quite alright. Then you have the huge, well, basically to cover up the whole M.2 SSD, the M.2 heatsink. Basically, ASRock lately and for the past 2 years is definitely giving a special attention to details when it comes to their motherboards, from the X570, B550, Z490 and now B460. We're also going to cover H470, but that will be covered in another video. So let's check out the details, and first let's go into BIOS. So accessing BIOS through standard delete or F2 button, you can get some sort of a easy mode. If you decide to go to the advanced mode, in the main menu you have the name of the motherboard processor. OC Tweaker actually gives you loads of possibilities for the CPU configuration, DRAM configuration and voltage configuration, and you even have 5 user profiles which you can store and basically have all the presets adjusted if you decide to change the configuration on a regular notice. Then we go to memory information, where you can see you can load the XMP settings, XMP optimization, DRAM reference clock and DRAM frequency, which shows the current frequency of the RAMs that you placed inside. Now in the advanced menu you have loads of possibilities for configuration, so CPU, chipset, storage, NVMe, Intel Thunderbolt, Super I/O configuration, ACPI, USB and trusted computing, as well as UEFI setup style, which you can also adjust. For tools you have of course ASRock Polychrome RGB, UEFI text service, Easy Write installer, SSD secure erase tool, NVMe sanitation tool and UEFI update utility. Hardware monitor basically shows you all the temperatures, RPMs of the fans, voltages of the CPU V-core and the PCH, DRAM and everything else. Finally, we have the security passwords that you can place on boot, on the BIOS, boot priority, where to boot and choose, and that's basically standard. And finally on exit you can choose what to do with each. Jumping into AIDA 64 cache and memory benchmark. As you can see, for the read status of memory, it goes up to 38,000 megabytes per second, write is 40,000 megabytes per second, and copy is 37,000 megabytes per second. Which you can see also at the AIDA 64 GPU benchmark, that testing out the CPU with the memory read-write copy, you have the exact, almost the exact same speeds. Now when we go with the auto disk benchmark and testing out the M.2 NVMe SSD, the maximum read speed that it can achieve currently is 2.08 gigabytes per second, even goes up to 2.10 gigabytes per second. And when we go with the write speed, it can go up to 1.41 gigabytes per second. Testing the processor basically out in Cinebench R20, we get for the CPU, so 10700K, 4891 points in Cinebench R20, and when we compare it with Cinebench R15, you can actually see that I tested the 10700K on 3 different motherboards and I get 3 different results, even though it's only by 2 points, by 2 Cinebench points difference. The Pro4 actually did manage to get 2 points more than the other motherboards, so this is actually really good, because it means that the motherboard didn't throttle even the unlocked processor, so the 10700K works perfectly normal on the B460M Pro4 motherboard. All in all, I would say that this motherboard has nice I/O overview when it comes to ports and your possibility to attach different peripherals or anything else. If you decide to go with something like a processor that has an integrated graphic card, you have the HDMI and DisplayPort connectivity, which is really cool. You have a really nice audio card with the Nahimic audio, so that is really nice, and 9 power phase design, which can nicely handle an even unlocked processor, but I wouldn't consider overclocking. Talking about the speeds on the M.2 SSDs, I think it could go even higher depending on how you set your BIOS settings for your M.2 SSD. And finally, we do need to take into consideration that this motherboard actually has 4 DIMMs for your RAMs, but DDR4 goes up to 2933 megahertz, which you do need to check on the qualified vendor list and to know what's it all about. For the expansion slot, you have 2 PCI Express 3.0 x 16 and 1 PCI Express 3.0 x 1. and one M.2 key E for Wi-Fi, so you could actually add a Wi-Fi card inside. That covers it up with the ASRock B460M Pro4. If you're running a smaller case and you want to have even go for a 10400 or 10500 or even 10600 processor, it would be quite alright, but do take into consideration the RAM speed, since it goes only up to 2933 megahertz. Yeah, that's it. Check the links below for the ASRock B460M Pro4 motherboard. If you like the video, click the thumbs up button. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.